Hello everyone, Dinas here with ActionVFX. Today I'm going to show you how to do this really cool smoky teleportation effect. We will do this in After Effects with the help of large-scale Dustwave and storm cloud collections from ActionVFX.com. We will use the many different angled clips that the collections provide to simulate a smoky portal opening up and engulfing our actors. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is our composition. This is the original plate from our friends at Red Giant. And below is the keyed out version of this plate. I am not going deep into the green screen here as we want to focus on getting the smoke effects. But in short, I keyed this main actress using key light and some manual rotoscoping, but I didn't key out her hair details. The hair details are being keyed out separately using a method that you can check out on my hair keying quick tips tutorial. Link is on the description below. So what I want to do is to 3D track this green screen, so we can have a 3D environment to start adding in our elements. Now After Effects camera tracker will automatically look for pixels in your shot to track. However, her being so prominent in the shot would impede with our tracking process. So what we want is to pre-comp her, and then inside it, we want to mask out our actress out of the shot. So then we can go back to the main comp and start tracking without worrying about her messing around with the tracking process. Great! So this is good track. So let's create a camera and then create a null here and then position it to where the actress would be like in 3D space. And basically this null will works as our guide for positioning our smoke. And then we're gonna delete the track pre-comp because we don't need it anymore. So let's first create markers on our timeline to help us timing the effects later. So we're gonna go to frame 151 and this is basically where we want our first marker. So we're gonna press asterisk to create our first marker. And basically around this marker here is when we want the smoke to start appearing. And then we're going to go to frame 161 and create a second marker. And this is where the smoke will completely cover her up. And then we're going to go to frame 170, which is where we want to have our third marker. And this is basically when all the smoke has disappeared. So between the first marker and the second marker is where we have our smoke basically animating. And then between second marker and third marker is when the smoke is shrinking and disappearing. Now let's start creating the smoke on her back. So our actress is not looking directly to the camera, she's a bit skewed to the right. So I'm going to add this Dustwave high angle too. Let's turn it into a 3D layer and then copy my null position into it. So now the dust is on the correct depth of the scene. And what I want is to rotate it, position it to the scene so it looks like the dust is on the same angle as her, and then put it below our actress layer. Now that we have our dust positioned, the next we are going to do is to retime it. We already set up the markers for our timing, so let's make the elements obey that. So right click and enable time remapping. So what time remapping does is it allows you to essentially manipulate the length and the speed of your layer. So I'm going to go to our first mark here and I'm going to tell the layer that this is where I want the dust to begin. So I set it to frame 0. And then let's go to the second mark and I'm going to hold and drag until I find the frame that I want for this time. So now the dust has been retimed according to the keyframe that I have set up. And then let's go to the third mark and set up which frame we want on this time. And basically we can stretch out the time by just moving the keyframes around or just changing the number. Basically the number in the keyframe and also the distance between the keyframe would dictate how fast or how slow the layer is moving. And then I want to mask out the right part of the dust because I don't like how it's looking. Next, I'm adding another dust wave, which is this one is top angle number 2. Let's give it the same treatment. Turn it into a 3D layer. Copy the position from the null to this dust wave. And then we're gonna enable time remapping again and we're gonna remap it the same way. So begin on the first mark and reach its peak on the second mark. And then I also add keyframes at the third mark just to give it extra motion at the end. And then we're going to put it at the bottom of the composition. So now at this stage, I want to keep messing around again, add more dust waves to populate the shot more, play around with the timing a bit more. Okay, so this is looking good, except I noticed that the dust gets too big at the end. So let's cancel it out by animating the scale. So from here, I'm gonna add keyframe, and then as it grows, I'm gonna go to the opposite and scale it down. So now after the dust appeared behind her, it would stay in size. And then grab the other layers and also do the same thing. Scale it down. So now we have our dust smoke behind her. Let's add more for the front. So let's bring in this other high angle dust wave. And then we want to rotate it to make it look like it's sweeping over our actress. And here what I want to do is to retime this dust wave to make sure it begins around the same time, but after the back smoke is visible behind her. So then the dust would look like it goes from behind her to the front. So let's add another time remap and set up 0 on our beginning mark. And on the second mark, we want to have the dust to reach the middle of our actress, where it will meet and merge with another dust. So now the timing is set up, I'm gonna mask out the left part of the smoke. That way we can feather our mask and give the illusion that our dust wave here is connected to the one behind. And now let's turn it into a 3D layer and copy our null position. And then we're gonna start repositioning it in 3D space, scale it up, and then retime it. And then I also reposition the back smoke a little bit just to fit the timing better with the front smoke. And once I'm satisfied with this, I want to add another dust wave. This time is high angle number 5, basically to help populate and fill the hollow part of the previous smoke. Basically, we don't want our actress visible, we want to cover her up as much as possible. Okay, so this is what I have now. I have added more dusts and play around with the timing and positions. Now let's color code our dust on the front to make it more organized. Next, we're gonna do another dust wave on the right. So for the right side of the dust wave is the same thing. Add in another high angle dust, rotate it so it is going to the middle of the actress, and then mask out the part of the dust that is not on the actress. And then let's enable time remapping and put a keyframe on the second mark. And then I start working backwards to decide the beginning of the dust. We want this dust wave to look like it is a continuation of the dust on the back. Great! So now we have our actress engulfed by the smoke dust. So now I'm just gonna keep playing around adding more smoke until I get the look that I want. So after playing around with all my elements, this is what I have. Here, as you can see, after the smoke merges, the animation is kind of delayed and laggy. That is fine because, like I have said, between the second and the third mark, we will have our smoke shrinking and disappearing, so it will be covered up by a lot of blur and motion. Okay, now let's actually animate the scale. We want to first animate the actress scaling down a little bit to make it look like she is stepping back towards the portal. This would also fix the top of her head that is still visible. So let's create a new null, and we want to position it around the horizon of the shot. We will use this null as the parent of our actress blade. So then we can scale down the null, and because of the perspective and where the pivot is, it would look like the actress is walking backwards. Now let's parent our actress and hair details blade to the null. And then let's add a keyframe to the scale, move a couple of frames forwards, and scale it down slightly to 90%. Perfect. Now because of the scaling down, we see our actress blade clipping at the bottom. So let's fix this by just duplicating our actors plate and move the one at the bottom downward, and then mask only on that area. This will not be very visible, so we don't have to spend too much time here. And then let's add keyframe to our opacity to have our plates fade out after they are engulfed by the smoke. Next, what we want to do is shrink down the smoke. So let's select all of the dust waves and pattern them to the 3D null that we already have. And then let's animate the null to scale down. Let's convert the keyframe to easy ease so we have better animation. Now we're gonna make the shrinking look more volumetric. So let's create an adjustment layer and add a turbulent displace. Set the size to something a bit like 25 and then animate the amount from 0 to around 200. Then we're gonna add CC radial blur, set it to straight zoom, set the center to the center of our smoke, and also animate the zoom as the smoke is shrinking. Then we want to mask out our adjustment layer because we don't want it to affect our background later. Now that we are around 85% there, we're gonna pre-comp our smoke. So let's pre-comp the smoke on the front right. Now you see the smoke moved a little bit. That's because we didn't bring the 3D camera inside the pre-comp. So let's toggle switch and click collapse transformation. So now it'll go back to its place because now it inherits the 3D properties that we had before. And then reparent the pre-comp to the 3D null. And then do the same thing with the front left smoke. And then the back. Now everything is pre-comped, we can color correct them. So I'm gonna add hue and saturation to the left smoke. Click colorize and play around with the hue. And then we're gonna copy paste this hue to the other smoke. And then on the front right smoke, I'm gonna add some curves to brighten it up because based on our plate, we have lighting from the right side of the plate. And then copy the curve to the back smoke. And I want to have the curve only affecting the right side of this smoke. So let's create a mask here. And then press E on the layer. And on the curve, compositing option and hit plus. So now the curve is only affecting the mask out area. Now, to add the lightning, it is very simple. We're gonna add this lightning pass which you can get from our storm cloud collection. So we're gonna find parts on the clip where there are flash of lightnings. And then we're gonna turn this layer into color dodge. And then we want to increase the brightness with the curves. Then we want to mask the lightning to fit the smoke. Next, of course, we want to duplicate this multiple times and spread it across the timeline. You can also add more lightning by creating new solid, add in advanced lightning, set it to two-way strike, and then position it to the bright area and blend it to additive. And then again, we're gonna duplicate this lightning multiple times and spread it across the timeline. Next, we want the smoke to cast shadow. So it's very simple, we're just going to use adjustment layer, put it between our actress and the smoke, and then add curve and darken our actress. And then we're gonna create a mask to follow our smoke as it moves. And then let's create another mask for the other side. Lastly, I want to add this free spell hits effects to add a bit of a poof at the end of the smoke. So I just turned it into a 3D layer, put it at the end, and match the color with the smoke. And then we're gonna add our background. Okay, so this is my shot. I didn't change any of the effects. What I did is I just added a background, which is essentially just a 2D image that I put in 3D space really far away on the back. And I actually have one layer a bit closer to the camera, which is the rock. And then I have the other layer, which is the mountains and the sky really far away. So that way I would have a parallax between the rock and the mountain when the camera is moving. Another one last thing that you could do is to add a motion blur, which if you want to do that, what you want to do is to pre-comp everything first, and then you want to add motion blur effects such as pixel motion blur. And you have your effects. Once again, you can get the VFX assets that I used in this tutorial from ActionVFX.com. ActionVFX provides vast library of high-quality VFX stock footage, from fire to explosion to people and many others. We also have free products that you can get on the website right now. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, just leave them below in the comment section, or you can visit our forum at forum.actionvfx.com, where we can have discussions about VFX, filmmaking, and other things with fellow VFX artists and filmmakers. So don't forget to subscribe, and see you on the next tutorial.